Gretchen if it's Monday, and she's just as bright as the sun outside. So this is so illuminating and exciting. I can't tell you, and I know I get excited, but it's well based. Every day we're getting bigger numbers, more people who are stepping forward, getting help, giving help, becoming available, opening up. I mean, all this is so cool and it's just beginning. Gretchen, you've been here from the beginning. What are you thinking and feeling?
Oh, I feel great every day. I mean, it's, I kind of, wake up, I have my things that I tell myself about the day and what we're going to do. And of course, I have Newman. So, word to to everybody. If you hear him bark, there's someone outside working on something. But no, I think it's great. I think the more the merrier when it comes to that. I think that, collective mindsets can either be really uplifting and positive and forward focused, or they can be the opposite in it. You have to know the company you're with. And so I think that's also really important. You don't want rah empty cheering. You want people who are really supporting you and understand what it is that you need, and that they can tap into that and help, keep you moving forward toward whatever it is that you need to be working toward, or that you want to be working toward. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're so lucky to have attracted so many productive, good natured, good people
Mm-hmm.
that it just makes it easier when you don't have to deal with what you're expecting most of the time on LinkedIn, which is just the opposite. And with that said, everything here is driven by the audience and your comments. So let me go through and recognize people. You're going to get exposure, visibility that you just can't find on a show that really represents the best of everything in the best of people. So Kathleen is here. Thank you. Hi, I haven't seen you before, but I'm so happy to have you. Welcome. Feel free to participate. Happy Monday, my friends, from Alex. Alex is a daily regular. Thank you, Alex, for all you bring. Uh, Here's Dean. Dean was so involved in yesterday's conversation and has some of the greatest comments. He's down in Texas. And I remember saying that people were having a hard time getting the right people on LinkedIn. And I was mentioned, like, well, a lot of people are looking for love in the wrong places. And Dean was like, hey, wasn't that a Johnny Lee song, from Urban Cowboy? And I said, yeah. And, it's just interesting how you say something and a memory that you would have never comes back to you. And the feeling with that memory, whether it's a song, whether it's going to the Grand Canyon, whatever it is, ignites something that was latent and now is coming to the surface and creating, a flame. So, Dean, welcome. Glad to have you. Okay, Kathleen, Ty, Brandy's here. Let's get this week off to an amazing start. Well, Brandy's a regular too. You know what's great is not only do you drive the conversation, you encourage the people around you. When
Mm-hmm.
anybody wishes everybody an amazing start with all these exclamation points, and this show is just beginning, it's almost conditioning people to say, hey, let's get happy right now with what we have, with who we're with, and build with it. And
Mm-hmm.
Christy's here. If you didn't have the chance to see Christy's co-host, and that was the first time she did the whole hour before she split one with Kelly. She was amazing. It went longer than anything on record, went over an hour and 20 minutes. And that's because if it's Saturday or Sunday, I'm not as conscious at the top of the hour. I know during the week, if it's 9:55, people are got to scramble to get to their 10. And there's nothing wrong with staying over, but I encourage people during the weekend, if the comments are keep flying. We had 110 comments during the during the live, and this is Sunday, Super Bowl day. And there's a lot of people were thinking about parties and where they're going to. But anyways, thank you, Christy. You're definitely coming back if you want to. Uh, Here we go with Chastity's here. Good morning. Chastity's been a regular too. Let me see if I'm missing anybody.
I saw
Oh,
Paul come in.
yeah. Okay. Well, here's a gentleman. Oh, Hello, I'm a software developer, open for opportunities. Well, opportunities is where we're at. Let me see if I can find. Oh, here's Paul. Hey, Don and Gretchen, happy Monday. I'll tell you one thing. We could just talk about what the people here is on Saturday. Everything that initially could go wrong went wrong. The guests couldn't get video. I was sending links to anybody. I called it open chat at that point or open mic. People couldn't get it. Kelly got it to Paul. Paul got in like 10 minutes from the start of the show, was there for the 50 minutes.
Yep.
And was just amazing. And it just showed how little you need if you have the right group with you, right?
Yeah.
Somebody would have went nuts if everything fell apart and they would have shown it. And to me, hey, we're all learning now what this is. Gretchen?
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things, too, that's important because that's actually happening quite a bit from the lives that I'm attending on LinkedIn. But the good thing about Restream is that you can restream it like right now. This is also on YouTube and Facebook. So there are multiple links that people can have and share with each other. If they can't get in on one platform, they can get in on another, which is great because the whole point is getting to the discussion and getting to ask whatever questions that you might, be curious about or want support with or any of those kind of things. And I think that that's important too. I think it's also really important to dial that back and remember, like, when these things happen, and they're going to happen, things are going to just drop in your day that you didn't expect. Things aren't going to work the way you expect them to. And it's a matter of just staying calm and working through it until you get to, a mutually beneficial outcome for everybody, which is, sharing those links, making sure everybody's got a way to get in. And that's really important because, the other side of that is when you get like frustrated and super, like, you can't think your way out of it. That doesn't benefit anybody and ends up, causing you a lot of stress, which it can be dangerous. Right. So, hi, Kathleen. So I think that's really important to remember. And I love that your audience does that for each other. It's one of the things that I really love about your show is that the audience is problem solving for each other like the whole time. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's so cool, and it is cool. And everybody says things are cool, but not all of them are really cool. But this is cool. Is it goes from audience out there to then friends in here, and then gravitates to family, right? And if you're with family and friends, no one cares if you fell off the porch, or if you dropped a jar, right? I mean, they're family and friends, and you do more things that would maybe challenge you in front of people who were strangers, right?
Yeah.
You have more courage for people who love and care for you. So go ahead.
Yeah, most problems really aren't getting solved in a, sort of, sanitized environment. They're getting solved, real world as they happen every day. Somebody shows up, something, is presented in front of them and they're not sure how to get through it. And if there are other people around them that can help them, that's the benefit. That's one of the things that, you just don't get that in a vacuum. And so it's being able to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, this happened. I have no idea how to deal with it. Does anybody know? And that's great when somebody can raise a hand, even if it's a digital hand, and go, you know what? Yeah, I've been through that. I know exactly how to get through that. Yep.
Yeah. And some people get the help without having to share themselves in the beginning. And once they start receiving it, because here's a cool comment from Dean, is back for my dopamine, right? And so many people, honestly, are telling me I'm blocking this out every day, because it's better than coffee and I need this. And the thing is you get reset, right? If everybody is cheering you where you're so used to people challenging you, it's easy to gravitate to that better place with more people. And the nice thing is everybody's got the same options here as everybody, right? So no one's better or less than anybody else. And people are here only because of being a good citizen, right? So the only way to protect this and to grow this is like a garden, right? You want to keep the weeds away and you want to keep nourishing everyone, seeing them blossom, seeing them grow. People have so much fun with gardening, but it's even more fun when you see people break out of their shell, when you see
Mhm.
people get that confidence in their eyes again, that fire in their belly, that
Yeah.
like, I got a shot again. So many
Yeah.
people are saying, when am I going to get my shot? Or do I got to take a small shot, and that's the only shot I'm going to get? Or, hey, can I dream again? And can I manifest the greatness I know is in me,
Mhm.
right? That needs to come out. So those are, pretty deep. Here we've got Chastity, good morning. Okay, we've done that. Brandy is saying, go, Christy. Everybody needs fans from everywhere, going everywhere, being everywhere. And like I mentioned, when I was the other day, actually Christine, and who's just an unbelievable supporter, Christine Feed,
Mhm.
uh, if I pronounce it right. And she complimented, I think it was Kelly or someone else, maybe Tara, whatever, whoever it was. They're all really wonderful people. And that compliment took up 10 minutes of our conversation,
Mhm.
because that's what it meant to somebody to get validated by someone else, to be acknowledged, to be recognized. And then we came up at the end with an exercise. I think it was Kelly that said, hey, why don't we all compliment somebody today and share the experience tomorrow?
Mhm.
So again, when you put things into action, and it works, and you do it times 40,
Right.
right? That's so cool. Christy says, it was my pleasure and always available. And that's another thing, I'm really focused on expanding this. We're kind of booked up now for 2 weeks already, and I haven't even done much. And we've got a few new people coming on. But here's what I'm doing. I'm bringing people who can identify with what we're doing, who are doing same kinds of things. A gentleman today wrote me and says he saw what we were doing and wanted to share that he had just set the world record, that he by himself planted 22,000 trees in 22 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's his goal, is to continue to build millions of trees out there. And, those are the kind of people who feel what we're doing, right? Because it's rare that so many people coordinatedly, meeting by plan instead of accident, doing it in small groups of 3 or 4 that come into a big group of 30 or 40. And
Mhm.
the numbers are so vast, adding a couple zeros shouldn't be that difficult. Poonam's here. Uh, Let me see. Okay. Hi, boss and Gretchen. Poonam's always here. Poonam's always saying hello to everybody. I'm trying to encourage Poonam to get a photo, which would really help in
It
whatever he does.
Studies show that profiles that have a photo are 14 times more likely to be viewed. Like people actually going to your profile page. So if that's important to you, Poonam, and you have something on your profile page that you really want people to see, or you're being found in search, you're 14 times more likely to have somebody click that link and go to your profile page if you have a picture. So food
Yeah,
for thought.
yeah. So I take that advice, and it's so easy to do. So,
Mhm.
Chris, okay, so Kathleen, oh, look at all the hearts and the flower, Miss Gretchen. That is so cool, to know you have real friends out there,
Mhm.
who step out of their comfort zone at times to support you. Okay, we've covered that. Oh, Christine's here. Christine's here. Hi, yesterday my 11-year-olds went to Super Bowl parties while I did homework. How's that for a switch? Well, I'll tell you my story is I just watched it on my screen. I just watched the score. I just wasn't going to give 4 hours of my time. And I even told my wife, when it was 35-35 with 2 minutes to go or whatever, I said, everything before this led to right here. This, it was just drama and everything leading up to it. This is what it comes down to. Um, but, I always say to everybody, build your own dream, not someone else's, and only root for people who root for you first, right? And I'm not crazy about people making hundreds of millions of dollars and getting my time when my time should be spent really doing what's most important for me and my family and the friends around me. Um, Good morning, everyone. We've got Ambimbola. I was just mentioning you. Ambimbola is from Nigeria. She's been here every day since she came for the first day. And in a sense, this is like a home. It's almost like a religious institution. Where you come and you see supportive people, and it's meet and greet, and everybody's there for you. What are you laughing about? I gotta know.
And the religion part just cracked me up. Yeah.
Yeah, well, everything's about belief. Whatever.
I just had this mental picture like Church of Dons. Like, sorry.
Well, if you've been to enough places, you see how things operate too.
Yeah.
And if you can take the best of a lot of best things and combine them and then apply them to something like LinkedIn. Hi, Alex. Paul, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Well, you got to always stay in shape, and I'll be honest with you. I have a hard time going to sleep because I get so excited about what I'm thinking about, and I can't wake up in the morning to go after it again. And the other good thing that goes back to the let's say the learning experience you have, when you do something enough consistently, no one thing matters, right? If Saturday's LinkedIn Live was once a month and that was the only chance and it all blew up, versus, hey, tomorrow's another day, Go
It always is. Yeah. No, it always is. Even if it's not alive, that's something I think is important for everybody to remember about everything is that, every moment is just a moment, right? There are important ones. There are bridge ones. There are ones we want to forget. They're momentary. So once it's over, if it wasn't something that pleased you that you could learn from or take it, into the future, you can let it go. You can let it go. You don't have to carry it with you, and that's something that it's hard for a lot of people. I'm married to somebody who really has a hard time. If he has, I'll give you a great example. I don't know if anybody has road rage, but my husband is a road rager. And so when somebody does something that displeases him in traffic, he can't let it go. And so we'll be somewhere and we'll come home and he's still upset about it. I'm like, why did you invite, you don't like them. They did something you didn't like. Why'd you invite them into our house? You don't have to bring that with you. That can stay where it was, so it's a choice, right? That's a choice he makes to just kind of hold on to that. But I don't choose to do that. I'm not going to do that ever. And so that's something that I think a lot of people, it's hard because we get so attached to and invested to the things that are happening, especially the negative ones, which is really interesting when we think about it. We dwell on those things, but we can let those go. They're not doing us any good. So they had their time. It didn't serve us. Boop, boop, boop. We can put that away and leave it there and go on about our business. And that's really important. So yeah, if it didn't work out, tomorrow's another day, it's another hour, another minute, right now I'm saying something and 5 seconds ago I was saying something else. That's in the past. That's actually how easy it is. I mean, you have to train yourself to be able to be comfortable doing it, but you can do it. And that's important.
Yeah, and I think being able to have a pause button,
Yeah.
put it in neutral, because the best way to approach anything is to respond to something, not react to something.
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure.
And if something happens, it just happened. The question is, how did that happen? Why did that happen? What was that person wanting me to think about when they did that to me or told me that? And a lot of times you don't have to accept it. You can give it back and just say, why did you say that? What we were hoping for to happen, because I don't appreciate it. And I actually think it's very disrespectful. And some people don't even have to go into it, because I tell people, don't ever try to go out of your way to help people who are trying to hurt you. And the way you help people is say, did you know you did this wrong and you should have done this right? But they're not worthy of that. Right? Move on. When you're allergic to something, it doesn't take you long to avoid it. Right? I mean, if something's too sweet or too sour or whatever, you don't say, okay, I'll just keep doing it. But people somehow allow other people to take precedence over their own confidence and security, right? And instead of thinking, hey, it could have been anybody, the guy doesn't even know me, right?
Well, but the thing is, for me anyway, and I think Paul makes a really good point earlier that, everyone has their own triggers. And then he talks a little bit about, looking at things as lessons, and that's really important to do. I think though, for me, one of the things is it doesn't matter to me who the person is. I know how I feel about me and how I'm
Mhm.
presenting myself in this world and what I'm here to do and why it's important that I do it. I'm okay if I make mistakes. I'm like, yay, if everything goes well, but I keep rolling with it, and that's really a large part of why years ago, yeah, everything would set me off. I'm glad that, that's part of the function of getting older and maturing and that kind of thing. And you kind of have a little bit of an ease about it. But I don't worry. If somebody's out there jawboning about something they didn't like that I did, you go, guy. You go, girl. Have your opinion, and that's cool. You're entitled to that. It doesn't matter to me. I'm still going to do my thing. I'm still going to talk to the people I talk to, give them the advice that I give, try to do the right thing, because you can't. The person that is saying X, Y, or Z, either to your face or somebody else, there's 10 or 15, probably more, that you don't know about. So let it go. It doesn't matter. It
Mhm.
actually, and this sounds really counterintuitive. People don't believe it, but it actually doesn't matter. And I'll tell you something else. When you don't respond to them, when it's not a trigger, if you can figure out how to diffuse that inner bomb and not let it set you off, that says a whole lot more than a reaction. Because a
Mhm.
reaction sparks a chain reaction. You can't get out of that. It's like a rolling ball of barbed wire. You cannot extricate yourself from it. So don't get involved with it. Just let it go. It doesn't matter. It's like the person, if you've ever had a job, if you've ever been in a job where there was that one person who's like, got you, got you, got you. And I don't want to have to deal with, X guy today or whatever. And now you're not at that job anymore. And you're like, oh, wow, I haven't thought about X guy in years. Yeah. The thing that consumed all your time and your headache and everything else, it doesn't matter. It's situational, but it's also your perception. So if you could get to that point, it's really important. And thank you, Christine. I don't know if it's inspirational, but my story is very specific to me, and it's like I say, it's that chain of really horrible, no good events that lasted for years. But that was a very defining time for me, and it absolutely set the stage for how I live my life now and how I'm able to, yeah, things will happen that, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, probably more than that, because it started in 2014, would have just set me off. I unraveled me. Now, no, no, but that's practice. That has been years of trying to work through that and work through that. And, and the practice really began in earnest in 2018 after the house blew up. I mean, but all these other things that happened before that led up to that, where I literally couldn't function. There was that, I've
Mhm.
told you about that on the show. I could not function, and I had to work a way out of that and figure out how to get out of that. And again, that exercise, those years of having to go through that and hit the wall and figure it out, and how to scale the wall and get over the wall, and then how to pull other people with me, like that's how I know to do that. If there's a tornado and you're sitting in the middle of it and it's like life is everywhere and you can't, grab one thing and hold on to it and make it make sense, I can show you how to do that. Like, I know how to do that. And that's because of that. So everyone has that. Every single person in this chat window, every single person listening who will watch it on the replay has been through something. You're going to have that. Yep, I hear you, girl. You know it when I say it. You've been through something that has absolutely taught you one of the most fundamental lessons about life. Go to that place whenever life is standing in front of you going, I'm going to poke you. I'm going to poke you. I'm going to make you not like something. Go to that place because you know how to get around that. You do. We just forget because we don't practice it.
Well, and to your point, there's so many valuable points to your point, is sometimes you can be counterintuitive. What impressed me about Mario's story is he ran into a gentleman who was having an awful day, was very negative. Mario just picked up what he called a trolley, which is something they call probably in France, as a buggy that we
Oh,
call here, in the
okay.
grocery store. And there was
Yeah.
a guy on the floor who starts screaming at him, saying it was his buggy. And Mara says, well, there's 70 buggies right here, you know? And anyways, he was pretty hostile. And Mario went up to him and says, can I give you a hug? You know?
Yeah.
You know, and he gave him a hug. And you know, and he took the trolley, and the guy found him in the grocery store and said, listen, I want to apologize for being how I was.
Yep.
You know, thank you for you know, meeting me.
Yep.
A lot of people, if they're giving you trouble, they're living with that trouble. They may
Absolutely.
give you of it. Their whole life is surrounded by what, anger, frustration. They're weaker. You're stronger, right? You should either help them or not allow them to hurt you. That's the two choices you have. But to engage them at their level is to lower yourself. But we've got so many people. I wanted to keep this group has caused my art to take off like a rocket. Like Gretchen says, if you learn one thing, if you meet one person, if you advance on something you've been hesitating, any of that times 40 times your network is huge. There's no reason 875 million people wouldn't want something like this if they felt they could use it. Most people don't know where to get it. Yeah. If you could say, yeah, if you can lower your anxiety, maybe minimize some depression, find a family, find support, even for the day. Too many people are looking for lifelong things. All they need is getting through today. And then tomorrow should take care of itself. And it's one day at a time. Like I mentioned, almost a lot of these shows, at the lowest common denominator, just remember to breathe, right? If you can get down to just breathing, you know.
That's actually super fundamental. And I was telling this to a client the other day when, you know, because, you know, when you have that, you know, this particular client is going through some interview anxiety. And I said, you know, when you're doing that, FD, thank you, Christine.
Yeah, I'm going to never forget that.
Right? So when you're going through that, anytime, even if it's like for my husband, where there's the guy who's cutting him off in traffic and he's like, it's going to ruin his whole day, or there's somebody who takes your buggy or your cart or your, forget what you call it, the trolley, you know, at the grocery store, or there's somebody who does something you don't like, and or just it's a situation and you feel that heart rate going up and you feel yourself getting frustrated, the best thing you can do in that moment is take 3 deep breaths. Do nothing until you do this. 3 deep breaths. Count 4 in, 4 out. Because what that does is, thank you, Yulia Bogdanova, for teaching me this. It will automatically lower your heart rate. What is one of the things you don't ever think about? You don't have to tell your body to breathe. It does it automatically. When you're sleeping, your body is still breathing. You don't have to tell it to do it. So it's an automatic thing, but it's an interesting thing because it's an automatic thing your body does that you don't have to tell it to do. But you can also control how it works. So when you think about it, and do that 2 more times, and what you will find is your heart rate will naturally be lower. Your emotional perspective will be different after that 3rd breath than it was at the first. The challenge with that is that people get so wrapped up in the moment that they can't pull themselves away from that anger response or that negative response to go inward and just take a beat, take a breath. You know, 3 breaths, 4 in, 4 out, 4 in. That's it. That will absolutely change your program. And then you can go from there. But we forget to do these things in the moment. And that's when it's most important. We forget. And that's why it's a practice. You got to practice it. And the more you know how to do it, it is a strategy that you can go to anytime. Anytime something is doing that, you can do that. You can go there and you can make that part of your routine, your decompression routine. Some people, you know, call it their going to their sage brain, all that kind of thing. But try that. It's one of the best ways to get yourself out of that mental situation. And then you can kind of regroup and go from there.
Yeah. And you see, what Gretchen said is so valuable. These comments are instrumental, you know, to redirecting time to better ways of helping yourself, you know. And if you help yourself, you're making the best investment and getting the best return on your investment as possible, because it's not how much you make, because money's transitory. It can come as fast as it can go and vice versa. But being better every day, being stronger every day, feeling confident and good about yourself because people show they love you, care about you, admire you, and you don't know that in most cases because there's not a forum where people can share that like this. Even if you even if you post, they're going to comment relative to the post or the concept. They're not going to be posting towards you, maybe sometimes, but this is real time, real people, real conversation, and it's real now. And like I say, everybody is sharing the same now at the same time together. And none of this is scripted, and it's all led by you. And that's why I encourage people, if you come in here with something that's gnawing at you, that you feel comfortable sharing. I don't want anybody to do anything they're not comfortable with, or because this is going to be out there forever, right? What do you call seasoned and dry? Oh, now we've got our comedian,
Carrie.
yeah. We've got Carrie, who's a comic. We've got I don't want to mispronounce his name, Daryl, I believe, who's the rhymer. Dean. Well, here's Dean. You can't live rent free in my head, and I don't blame you. You only have so much real estate. You have to take care of it. Here we go. Yes, I caught alive. I must have been a great glove or net. I think everybody has their own triggers, Gretchen. What really helped me was looking at things as feedback and lessons.
Yep.
The universe gives us an opportunity to prove who we say we are. You're the only one who passes judgment on yourself.
Yeah.
You're the person who can parole yourself. You're the person who could forgive yourself. And you're going to be with yourself for the rest of your life. Why not be on the best terms? Why just not say, hey, what it was, and it's not going to change, and I'm not going to minimize it, but it's not going to take another price of my future. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the other thing too with that, going back to what he said about triggers and how everybody's got that thing or that person or that situation that just kind of sets them off, is, you think about it. And you see, I mean, we're all on social media, so we all see that, when somebody makes one of those posts like, so-and-so said this, and I'm not going to take it, or somebody took my words out of context. All you're doing in that situation is something that bothered you that you wish had not happened. You just lit it up. You just gave it 20 times the audience so more people can see the thing you didn't want them to see, the thing that bothered you so bad that you wish didn't happen. But now you're giving it an audience. Don't do that. If that's one thing that when I see people do it, I want to hug everybody who does that, because please don't do that to yourself, because what you're doing is you're scratching that wound, right? You're picking at it. It's bugging you, and it's bugging you so much that now you want to amplify it. You want to do the exact opposite of what you wish you could do. And it's an automatic thing that people do. Try not to do it in that moment when you're like, I'm going to let everybody know that so-and-so did this and they were wrong. All you're doing is giving that person who did you wrong, or that you think did you wrong, a bigger audience to do it again. And you're keeping yourself in that negative space. Let it go. It's hard. Don't get me wrong, but try it. Let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be so much happier.
Well, and if you control your future by controlling your time and who has access to it.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, did you ever think, I'm going to get into a fight at 3 p.m. with somebody I never met yet today, and it's going to take over my whole spirit and mind for the rest of the day, and I'll probably have to share the awful experience with my friends and family and make them less than they could be? When you're part of something bigger than yourself, when you have an obligation to people or whatever it is bigger than yourself, you will not let someone take it away. When it's you, sometimes you're your worst best friend, right? What you say to yourself, you would never say to somebody else in public. You'd be so embarrassed, right?
That was actually the those limiting beliefs was actually the subject of the 4th flight attendant show. And it's interesting because I started that show just as with audio and a blank screen of me telling myself some of the limiting beliefs that I have. And it's challenging to do that. And it's really challenging to listen to it because we normally don't say those things out loud. But when you do that, like, you would never stand for anyone saying those things to you, right? But we do it to ourselves all the time. And one of the challenging ways that you can actually get out of it, and I say challenging because it is tough, is not reacting in the moment, because some of the limiting beliefs come from the actions that we have, and then the actions that we don't take that we wish we had taken. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. Oh, you're so this, you're so that. But you can, like, stand in the way of the path of that thought and say, you know what, not today. We're not doing this today. I'm not gonna let you have that power over me today. Or just this moment, you're not gonna get it. And you can take that control back. And it's hard, but it's possible.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Uh, Everybody's got a voice. Everybody deserves to be seen and heard. I'm going to try and make some of the flight attendant tomorrow. I know Gretchen is doing it with Carla, uh, and it's at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And I encourage everybody to support people in the show, and more importantly, outside the show. Make connections, have conversations, support people's efforts. The next step of this, again, I've been talking about collaboration groups. I'm putting together a leadership group right now, is giving everybody their own show, right? And let them, in other words, go from, I watched it, I participated as an audience member, I co-hosted one, I created my own show that you can have on this network, which gets you all that promotion. But then you could take your own show, like Gretchen says, you're simulcasting to your own LinkedIn, you're simulcasting to Facebook, YouTube, whatever. There's 30 channels actually. If you were into it, I don't know how anybody would do it, but wanting more, being more, helping people become more. It's like, now, instead of waiting for a hand to go down and pick you up, take your hand and start picking people up.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody help someone a little bit and encourage people. And I can't tell you how proud I am of Gretchen for just when we started together, what someone's vision or mindset was, including my own. There's something to innocence. There's something to allowing spontaneity and the life to open the road for you. Too many people are forcing, pressing. And I'll tell you one thing, that's why I'm so against selling in the beginning, because it just is so disrespectful to the person to say, why don't you get to know me?
Yeah.
Why can't we have a call?
Yeah.
Before I have to make a decision? Or am I like just one of many? And as soon as I say no, there's more that you're going to go after. So be careful. But here's the thing, when you find what you need and what serves you best, take advantage of it and listen to your heart as fast as it tells you something, because your brain will start coming into it, or your ego, right? And, people have nothing, got to realize where they're starting from. There's so many people used to be, they seemed entitled, and now I've got to do this. Well, this is better than nothing, and that's why I always told people came to work for me. They always say, especially the stock people or the warehouse people or whatever, I just hate starting at the beginning. And I said, well, you're only there as long as you want to be. Start climbing, start learning, start growing, start volunteering. Everybody wants something better. But you got to be better to get better. It's like yelling at that stove and say, give me heat and I'll give you wood. It just doesn't work that way. Gretchen, your story is really inspirational. Didn't know you had MS. Folks in my family do too. And my 20-year-old is living with a chronic illness. He is the most positive person I know. It makes a difference in his mental and physical. That is so cool. And, I was talking to Kelly, and she has a nephew who's blind. And he's like on the U.S. bike team, and he's doing all these incredible things.
Yeah.
And like I say, one thing that really made a difference in my life, I was at a conference and there was a speaker, and he came in a wheelchair with no legs. And he shared his story as a Vietnam vet that got blown up with a mine, and he ended up in a ditch, and someone found him. He prayed that night that if his life could be saved, he would dedicate it to helping people and got on a hospital ship, ended up in Bethesda Naval Hospital. He said there are hundreds of people just like me.
Yeah.
And the only ones who survived were the ones who believed in a better future instead of their past. Right. And last thing. So he says, and now you're looking at a man who's got 4 beautiful boys, married to a wonderful woman. I hunt, I fish. I've talked in 49 states. But the biggest thing was, he says, how do you stop a man who won't quit? You know? And by the
Yeah.
time he was finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And you had to ask yourself, what's my excuse? Right? What am I feeling sorry for? What thing can't I do? And it puts things in context. And until you lose really bad, can you really appreciate how sweet victory is again? And more importantly, you get modest and humble, and little things mean more. Gretchen?
Well, I was going to say, like, you know, and I applaud him because when I was diagnosed, I did not say, I'm going to make a difference. I actually crawled all the way into myself and I just got into victim mode for a long time. And I was really angry for a little bit. It's not really my nature to be angry, but I was for a little bit. And I got really into my victimhood. And I've mentioned this before. I use a metaphor about this is just for me. So if it doesn't resonate, okay, but this is how I had to get out of it. I was feeling so bad, and it wasn't, you know, MS is different for everybody. Mine started presenting in my eyes. I couldn't see, I couldn't focus. Like I could see the shape of your head, Don, but I couldn't make out like your eyes or your nose or your mouth. That, imagine when that happens when you're driving, which it did to me a couple of times. But I had that happen. And then some other things happened. It took about 3 years for me to get a diagnosis. And when it happened, I remember saying, when the words were first spoken to me, I was like, so you're telling me, like, in the whole landscape of things it could be, you think that's one of them? And the guy was super matter of fact. Joshua Pizzol was his name. He goes, no, I think that's what it is. MS. We'll do a spinal tap. We'll know for sure. And I was crushed. My husband and I went to Miami, Baskin Palmer, got the spinal tap done. 15 days later, I had a 18-page fax because they check for everything to rule everything out. And boom, then, you know, the oligoclonal protein bands are what I had too many of. So boom, boom, boom. That's my diagnosis. And for a couple of years, I was really in victim mode. And I liken it to wearing a coat that doesn't fit. And I always tell people, the bigger your victimhood, the smaller the coat. And if you don't think it's true, like go to a closet. Everybody, like, if you're a woman, you probably got the skinny clothes you're going to wear one day. Go and put one of those old shirts, a coat, a jacket, a sweater, a pair of pants on. Try to move in it, right? Try to reach for something. You can't, because it's restricting you. And that's what victimhood did to me. So now I can look back and say, I'm glad that I got out of that. But I definitely, wasn't on the page of, I'm going to make a difference for the world. It took me a lot of years. It actually took, sadly for me, that was 2009 when I got diagnosed. It was not until after 2018, and I had already gone through the death of my brother-in-law, my niece's suicide, my mom's cancer and death, my dad getting hit by a train, my husband not waking up for 6 days after heart surgery and then having learned how to walk and eat and shower again, having to medically retire him, from his job that year, the house blowing up. Like, all these things had to happen for me to get it. Like, okay, I get it. There's a different way. I've got to do this. So all those things. And the reason I talk about it now, one, I didn't for a lot of years. And I know there are people who are going through things that could benefit from that. And two, there are people who are going through things that can benefit from it. Everybody has a struggle. You don't have to stay there. There's somebody that you can reach out to and say, like your friend, do you need a hug? Do you need a mental hug, a verbal hug, a physical hug? Can I just sit and talk with you? Many years ago, this was way pre-COVID. I was having lunch with a bunch of friends, and there was a guy, a really angry young teenage guy we were outside, and he was sitting at one of the tables near us, and he was smoking, and you weren't supposed to smoke there. And even though it was outside, you weren't supposed to smoke. And he was really adamant about the fact that he was going to smoke, blah, blah, blah. And so I just got up and I went over to talk to him and let him know, like, maybe that's not the thing to do and what's going on and that kind of thing. And at first he was like, who are you? Get away. And then he opened up and we started talking. And this is a guy who needed somebody to talk to and didn't have anybody. And I'm a total stranger. I'm nobody. But I'll never forget that, because it was one of those things where somebody needs to hear what you have to say. And even if they're having the worst time, there might be something in you that needs to hear that, so that there's something in you that can help them. Everybody can help somebody else. Every single person on this planet can help somebody else. It's just a matter of knowing that you can, feeling empowered to do it, and just get out there and do it.
Well, that's so encouraging and empowering, because everybody's got the key to the lock that's holding them back from what they really should be doing, with who they should be doing. And it's only because, to LinkedIn and to Microsoft's benefit, they created this platform, and they allowed us to come together like this. And you could have done Zoom or anything else, but you wouldn't have been in the heart of LinkedIn, have promoted from LinkedIn to this and support it. And if there's two things to being successful on LinkedIn, it's content and distribution. That's the only thing they allow you to do. They handle everything else. So it's, what do you want to say? Who do you want to say it to? And can those people get an opportunity to hear you? When I look back at my numbers, and I would advise everybody, keep looking back and then see where you are. I was so amazed that the first month I did this, I was getting about 4 minutes worth of views per episode. And I was still happy doing it, but they were only like 9 or 12 minutes, because it was just me talking to somebody, maybe nobody, but I was in a vacuum. And then yesterday we went over 1,000 minutes on just one episode. And
wow.
1,000 minutes is 17 hours of viewing.
Yeah.
And it's only growing. I looked at 2 months ago, and it was 1/3 that. So if there's a saying, the trend is your friend. If you can continue to project based on what you're seeing, that's huge. And we're just scratching the scratch. Kathleen says, amen, Gretchen. Want to make sure Kathleen's been very supportive and complimentary everybody today. Gretchen, you're absolutely awesome. And she is. So, when you say I'm complimenting somebody, you're actually just sharing who they are. A lot of people say compliment, and we talked about in prior episodes, people who aren't worthy say, oh, it's not that nice, or you're just being kind, instead of saying, thank you so much for noticing. That's so sweet of you, because now you just followed a compliment with a compliment. When someone gives you a compliment and you give it back, it's like someone gave you a present they really wanted you to have, and you said, I don't need it, or give it to somebody else who needs it more. You're not being kind to yourself or the other person. Sometimes you have to allow people to be generous, because they have a need to give, and they're looking for worthy people and situations to invest in, right? Because they can do it. I can relate with autoimmune. It took several years, chronic fatigue, the medication, sulfur, severe. Yeah, and people take for granted that everybody probably is in the same situation they are, right? And until you know what other people are dealing with, you know what they say, until you walked in somebody else's shoes, can you really say things about anybody. Gretchen?
I don't know if anybody who's listening to this is familiar with Photoshop, but you know how Photoshop has a layers palette, right? Everything's in layers in most of the Adobe products. So you're working with a layer, and they have the little eye icon. Almost like when you go to look at your password and you can turn the eye on and off. So when the eye is off, you don't see the layer. And when it's on, you do. And I always think of people as like walking Photoshop layers palettes. Like, they have things turned off. They're not going to show you. I didn't talk about a lot of this stuff for years. I didn't know how to talk about it. Now I do. And people are like, oh, wow. There are people who've known me a long time. They're like, wow. I didn't, like people that I worked with at Sportsline, for example. And when the layoff happened, we all kind of went our separate ways, scattered the four winds. We stayed in touch, but it was distance. Nobody lived near me. So they didn't know about all these things that had happened. And it's surprising to them. But the point of that is that, there's value in going through that. There's value in sharing. It's your choice. You can keep those layers turned off. You don't have to show everybody anything. That's a personal choice. Just know that if you do, and if you make that choice, feel comfortable with that. If you can, get comfortable with it if that is your choice to do it, because there is somebody out there who needs to hear what you have to say. And you're the only one who can say it in the way that you can. It's like being able to tell your story, whether it's in a job interview or on your about section or anywhere else, telling your story. Nobody else has it. Nobody else can tell it. And people who want to give you tips on this is how you should do this and this is how you should do that, that's great to a point. Those are general kind of templated things. But when you get to the meat of the matter, that is unique to you. Nobody has your story.
Yeah, and your story is your story, and that's the only story you have.
Yeah.
Too many people are either following a shiny object, don't have a lot of patience, aren't able to be persistent. When I got into LinkedIn full time about 3 years ago, I determined this is going to be a 5-year plan right at the beginning. I'm 3.5 years into it, and I'm so much more comfortable getting here the way I built on. Right? Too many people want to get to the finish before they even start the beginning. Everybody wants to instant oatmeal and everything they do, just add water, but it doesn't last. And you go back to the well and you're selling and you're going for business. I even thought the other day, at this point, I wouldn't even take another client, because why would I dedicate time to someone I hardly know, helping them do what they're doing, when I got a load of work ahead of me here, right? That's going to be so beneficial to so many people. Because again, if you put yourself second and you just keep doing, you think, well, I'm giving all this value, right? But you're creating value in yourself to give that value. And then the value gets returned to you. I've heard so many people in a good way saying, I'm now totally addicted to this. It's like a soap opera. I almost have to be here every day just to keep up with everybody's lives and situations. And like I say, this is going to expand in multiple ways. I want to see everybody get their own LinkedIn Live show. And that's what we're going to create, is kind of a network, help you get there and then help you move beyond there. This is about graduating, right? If you're going into something, you want to come out of something and be on your own. The key to security is independence, not only financial, but time. There's so many people have money and no time. There's people have time and no money. Either one of them doesn't work too well. But when you can create your own future based on having an advantage through this network, it's going to be superior. So anyways, we're getting to 9:52. I'm very conscious of top of the hour. So if anybody's got some more they want to share, feel free. What I would advocate is, if you see people that you are attracted to or related to, connect with them, reach out, have conversations with them, find out how to complete someone who can also complete you at the same time, right? You may need 20% of something, they may need 80. It's just matching up, pairing up, and adding to it. Like I say, there's so many people. Kelly and Christy are working together. I know Tara and Jenny are working together on certain things. I know Carla and Gretchen are working together.
And Paul's going to be on the show too. Paul's going to be on the flight attendant. Yeah.
Well, great. And Paul is a guy who continues to be open, to welcome, to find the time. And what you find is, you don't have to leave an old family or group of friends all at once, right? You can just upgrade to people who are going to serve you better, to people who have already served and won't take you to the next level, won't give you what you need. And it's not personal, it's just matching, right? When I used to have to let people go, I would never say it's because of you doing this. I would always say it's just not a good fit, and that way it wasn't so hard on people. Ambimbola says, nobody can really tell my story like me. And you've got so much story to tell. I mean, wherever you are, those are years of experience. Everybody's got family times. Everybody's got school times and friend times. I know Gretchen has some fabulous stories. Those are the stories you want to tell, because those are the stories you want to hear yourself telling, When you're
Hmm.
talking to somebody else, you're hearing at the same time they are. And most of it is a surprise when it comes out in most cases.
Yeah.
And the more you tell your story, the easier it is to tell your story. That's another thing, right?
Yes, yes. That's, it's one of the things that I work with some of my clients on when they're having trouble writing, like, answering that question. So tell me about yourself, or writing, like I was saying earlier, their about section or any of those kind of things, a profile, a bio, any of those things, because they don't know their story because they've never told it. And so it sounds weird to say it, but tell it. Tell it to yourself until you're comfortable telling it. Because what happens on the other side of that is if you're not comfortable with your own story, who you are, what you're about, why you get up every day and do the thing you do, and why that matters to you, and what it does for you, and what you can do for other people, you're not going to be able to tell that to anybody else. And so that's when, one of the, interview prep and all those things, and I shouldn't say it that way because it's important, but one of the things that stops people in any situation, whether it's an interview or a conversation, meeting new people, any of those things is not so much the unknowns, but they know the questions that are coming and they dread them because they know they're coming and they don't know how to answer it. Knowing who you are and what you're about and why you're doing it, tell that story over and over again. So it's the most comfortable thing in the world to go, yep, this is what I do. This is what I like it. This is how I make a living doing it and why that's important to me. Like, get comfortable with that because that matters. And that confidence is going to feed so many other touch points in the conversation that you don't even know. But yeah, that's it. I find it interesting that one of the things people dread the most are the questions they know are going to come. So you can get prepared for those. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what you find? Again, it's like you're afraid of falling out a window until you find out you're always on the first floor. And when you open up to people, you surprise yourself how they're not reacting the way you thought they would. And in most cases, just like today, people say, I've got the same experience, maybe in a different way, maybe at a different time. Everybody deals with life, right? And life deals different hands to different people at different times.
Yep.
And it's not the hand you get, it's how you play it.
Yeah.
It's just like if you got a role in a play, you'd have your lines, you'd have your costumes, you'd have your point of entry and when you leave, and you play that role. And sometimes you've got to deal with fantasy, with illusion in a way of having a vision, of closing your eyes and seeing where you want to be and how you could get there. And all you got to do is add it up. And if it's short, that's where you find help. No one's supposed to be an island unto themselves. And it's no fun even if you can, right? I'd rather feel like a winner every day of my journey. And one day when the results came in, say you just lost, than feeling like a loser every day of my journey and finding one day I just won. And the next day the journey starts again. There is no outcome here. There's only continuum.
Yeah.
It's wherever you are, you're moving somewhere. Is it the somewhere you want to go? You wouldn't go to a travel agent and send me anywhere. I don't care. You'd have to have a destination. So it is time. I'll just say, Dean with his elevator 30-second pitch.
Yep.
And we need guitar to play the hand. Well, that's cool. So with that, we got one more from Dean. They're coming fast and furious. Quoting Kenny Rogers, now the gambler. Okay, well, none like the gambler in country music. I have done that for so long, being an island of myself, and I'm glad I have found support. There's so much there if you just open your door to it.
Yep. Absolutely.
And don't wait for the door to knock. Open it in anticipation of someone being there. So with that, Gretchen, you want to say
final? No, I love this chat every Monday. It's such a nice way to break up the day and just kind of talk to a bunch of really cool people. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, you're just really were brilliant today and encouraging and empowering. And I know all of these people come away at least a little bit better, and sometimes a little bit gets you a breakthrough, and then you're in the open field, and it's the best feeling you could have, riding a wave. So with that, everybody enjoy their day, rest up, come back in 23 hours. If you get a chance, see Gretchen tomorrow, even an hour earlier. Love to see people grow together because there's never enough success. There's
Yep.
never enough happiness,
Yep.
right? If you can get yours and help someone else, you're doing double duty. So with that said, goodbye for now. Thank you so much.